Hello and welcome. Season 5, Episode 3 of the Voiro Podcast. With me as always, Kavita Shenoy, founder and CEO of... How are you?
Hello.
Good morning on a Friday that you said doesn't feel like a Friday.
Yes, because we had a Tuesday holiday and I think Tuesdays are the worst days to have holidays.
But imagine this, tomorrow you will wake up thinking it's Friday, but it will be Saturday.
Yeah, that's true. It's true. What have you been doing?
I was, there's a new, it's a podcast / a website called Zuckerberg. Begins with 3 Z's, where basically they read out the terms of service of threads in a very slow and calming voice and you fall asleep.
Hey, we did that too, okay? But we did it in a more upbeat way.
Yeah. But they just read it on loop.
I have discovered a new music genre,
Oh.
a name.
What is it?
It's called, wait for it, I hope we have a drum roll here. Hill Post. Chill Pinned.
Let me
It's
guess.
a
Chill,
pin.
trip hop, Punjabi music.
It's have you heard One Love by Shub or AP Dillon?
Everyone, yes,
Yes.
of course.
So that's like groove a little bit, some Punjabi, like
I love
rolling
listening
words.
to AP Dillon, but sometimes I realize I try and sing it to myself and then I realize I have no clue what the lyrics are, so I stop.
Yeah. No, but the lyrics are, they're not that complicated,
Yeah.
but then it's really chill and really pinned. So, dude, I'm all about the chill pin now. So anybody wants to play me some music, that's what I'm about. What have you been watching?
As you know, I have not been watching much lately.
Because you've been busy working.
No, it's because I solidarity with the strike.
Oh,
Yeah, these writers deserve more money,
please. I have just been watching reruns after reruns. I have gone back to my Gossip Girl days.
which is what I've been watching. But I suddenly find that I'm watching a lot of YouTube.
I know,
Just-
I'm still on my Netflix and I watched Jailer the other day. I know a lot of people hated on Jailer, but I really liked it.
You can't hate on Jailer.
I
I don't think it's allowed.
It's all allowed,
Allowed
right?
nahi hai.
Yeah, allowed ही नहीं है. But you say now in Punjabi in a chill pinned way. I'm going to practice this and come for the next podcast. So what's been happening? What's caught your attention? And I know that the last 2 podcasts you hosted guests.
Yes, and they kind of dovetailed into each other. We had Lava Kumar from Entropic, and then we had our dear friend Varda from Big Basket.
I heard the Varda podcast was just switch on and sit back.
It was great. He's just a wealth of so much knowledge. Santosh and I just kind of sat back and Varda was talking about some of the stuff that he works on and stuff that interests him. It's very, very interesting. Both those episodes basically covered a side of advertising that we don't typically get to see, the emotional side of advertising. Lava Kumar had, of course, talked about attention and attention measurement and the fact that advertising is a 3-legged stool, creative, context, and channel, and the creative is actually 60% of the effectiveness.
Right.
While that was interesting, Varada stepped in after that and talked about some of the work he does on what's called context priming.
What our engineers also require ever so often.
It was context switching. Yeah.
Hey, we're going to prime them as well.
Yeah.
Okay, forget the switching.
No, but Varda was talking about how, and I love the fact that he peppered it with real world examples. But in the history of retail, the ability to influence our behavior is done through cues that affect the mind subconsciously that we have no idea about. Borderline manipulative, which is also what I asked Varda point blank. I said, why does the ad industry get such a bad rap for trying to effectively doctor our experience? And the retail industry has been doing it for so many years, and something about it has been normalized, right? The way the stores are arranged, the way products are displayed, the fact that your day-to-day products are all the way at the back, so you can walk through the other sections. And in the world of e-commerce, of course, he works on priming, which is basically how exposure to one thing can alter behavior later in a manner that we don't understand. And he gave us many, many examples. He talked about hotel rooms and how if a room is white in color and quiet, our propensity to pay more just shoots up. And something about the environment is tied to our inertia, which makes us be okay with more expensive pricing for the same item, like a bottle of water or a cup of coffee.
Right.
So he gave us so many examples like this. And even on the other end of the spectrum, he said, take print, for example. We don't mind print ads because we are intentionally opening every page expecting to find an ad there. And he talked about, therefore, the interplay between ads and content and what ads can do to basically supercharge priming itself.
Very interesting.
It was fun. It was fun to listen to. He's just got so many examples of basically how our entire, all our brains have just been doctored by every brand and every experience around us. And we don't even know. We just walk around thinking we are independent adults, but we are
And
not.
with choice. Yeah. We're actually not.
Every decision we are about to make has already been made. We just don't know it.
Speaking of print expectations and expecting an ad in print, you were also talking about New York Times earlier today.
Yes. The Ad Exchanger podcast had on Joy Robbins, who is the new Global Chief Advertising Officer, which is a cool designation.
Say it again.
Global Chief Advertising Officer.
Okay.
Joy used to be the CRO of the Washington Post. And so they talked about the fact that she's gone from the number 2 publication in the United States to the number 1 in terms of scale. She's only been in the system like 3 or 4 months, but she touched upon 2 interesting things. The New York Times has always fascinated a bunch of us. I remember years ago we studied their innovation report when they took the decision to mandate subscriptions. We sort of paid attention to that model. So she talked about the advantages of having a business model where it's mandatory to subscribe, but you still have to see ads, and how it's given them so many choices that make sense for advertisers.
Yeah.
Because there is already a baseline from an average revenue per user perspective. You don't need a heavy ad load that ruins the experience. You can still focus on journalism. Everyone has opinions about their journalism and the brand it has, and leave that out of it. But it makes sense if you go and look at ndtv.com or outlook.com. I used to love their journalism at one point, but they don't let me read it.
Yeah.
The ad load, the ad density is so high, and sometimes I like X and interstitial, and it takes me back to the top of the page. I forget where I have to scroll up and down to find out. It's just ruined the experience.
Also, if you look at New York Times ads, they are very, they are not in your face. They're very pertinent.
Yeah.
And the way they're treated as well,
Yeah.
I don't know whether they instruct them on the type of creatives and whatever they put in over there, but it's not obtrusive.
Yeah.
Yet it's not something that you can ignore.
So she talks about this from both angles that you just mentioned. Right? One is on the creative side. They have a creative arm, much like what we see in retail.
Yeah.
They have a creative arm. They collaborate with every advertiser. They don't do open auction programmatic, so they have direct relationships. And much like we've seen with marketplaces and e-commerce, they have a creative team that works, and it's a great value add to advertisers. But it, I think, gels with the experience. And like I just mentioned, because of the fact that they already make revenue from subscribers, there's 2 advantages. You can control your ad load because you're not under that much pressure to splash ads everywhere.
Yeah.
And very rich first-party data because everyone's a subscriber. You know a lot about them. So she basically talking about the fact that she said, I have walked into a very cool environment because the flexibility from here to innovate is this very different flavor of freedom. The other thing that she touched upon specifically with the New York Times was from a business model perspective. She said there are multiple entry points. You can come to read journalism, come from a newsletter, you can come to play games. And she talked about a new game. So after they acquired Wordle, they acquired The Athletic. And then they've recently created a game called Connections. It just came out of beta, I think, a week ago. It is bloody hard.
What is the game about?
So there's a grid of 16 words.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to group them into 4 groups of 4 words each. So you have to find commonalities. And every group is harder than the previous one.
Oh yeah, it says group words over here. There's letterboxed, there's tiles, and then there's connections.
And there's connections. And apparently even so she was talking about how her mom is in a like a WhatsApp group with people who submit their Wordle scores every day. And if someone doesn't, they'll get a call, say, are you okay? Like, what happened? So this is it's a group of very proficient Wordlers. And apparently they're all struggling with connections. I played it yesterday. I was on a flight yesterday with Anil, and we both tried it and we couldn't finish it. It's just so hard to do it.
Let's all try it over this weekend then.
Because the connections are so esoteric. It's really hard.
Yeah. Just going back to the fact that you spoke about print and advertising and the expectations that we're building subscribers, premium experience, direct sales. It's sounding like the path has already been paved in terms of learnings for Netflix, right? Netflix is never going to be a programmatically led advertiser. They're going to change the way advertising is looked at in our, in a subscribed app environment that is projected on television as well and is available on connected TVs. And I think one of the things that everybody, I don't know whether we misunderstood it or whether we were just generally trying to apply the same playbook. When they came out with their $65 CPM, we were like, why am I going to pay a $65 CPM for a video ad? But what if it is not a video ad? It is something else entirely that they are trying to change, right? In the way you're actually positioning the ad, how the ad is treated, where the ad is placed. Because if I'm already subscribing to an ad-supported version of Netflix, I'm expecting ads, right? I'm also expecting the Netflix experience. So the advertising experience within the Netflix experience should ideally be the same, right? So I have great hopes. And the fact that, New York Times has cracked this entire concept of
subscription meets advertising.
Subscription meets advertising and is not eroding user experience, and the advertisers have a premium advertiser experience, means that Netflix is onto something.
They're onto something. And there's obviously a way to do it that's not jarring.
Exactly.
That leverages first-party data to create a better bridge to users. I keep going back to something Bharat from Sansara said. He said, we all think we want privacy, but what we really want is security.
Yeah.
And we conflate the two.
And the other thing about not wanting and not wanting to be targeted in ad choices is that it's not like you're not going to get ads. You're going to get horrendously irrelevant ads.
10,000 a day.
Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah. In news, I was following this whole Walt Disney Charter establishment of their new contract and how Walt Disney pushed back and they were going to pull it off Charter. And then they reached an agreement.
Just before the football season.
Exactly. Yeah. Just like they literally screeched into it. It was, just before the New York Jets came on. And they came to an agreement. And it's the same agreement that Charter had arrived with other TV companies, broadcasters like Paramount and Spectrum and Peacock, etc. Basically, Charter subscribers get a reduced price access of the Disney streaming bundle. Now, but this entire tension between Charter, who's a cable TV provider, and Disney, puts Disney's ambitions on a stage. They want to own the relationship with the end customer, right? And they want to move from, in Julia Alexander's words, move from being a wholesaler to a retailer, right? And that switch is really hard to make, right? Because all of this time, Disney has been a wholesaler. They've been creating content and distributing it amongst all the distribution networks. Now, suddenly they want to make sure that they want to jump over the distribution networks maze and go straight to the consumer. What they don't realize, or what they may have realized and therefore come to a settlement and figured out how they want to price and give access to Charter customers, is that they need to have strategic partners so that they can keep customers within reach. Now, Disney has stuff around their entire experience. They have their parks, they have their games and everything else. So they genuinely have a side of their business where it's a Disney family, right? They're Disney adults. People actually willingly are a part of this Disney experience. But from a broadcast perspective, the cable networks have really set themselves up in a way that it's very hard to sidestep them now. They're in everybody's homes. That is the only way to reach them at this point. So they need to rethink who their partners are and try and figure out how they can actually go direct to their customers. And from a cable perspective, right, their time is also marked right now. They may be directly in customers' homes right now, consumers' homes right now, because they have a cable there, they have their internet, and they may be providing.
If their base is dwindling,
they
have to find a way to focus on the customer.
Exactly. They have to find a way to become a platform.
Yeah.
So when you talk about platforms, you talk about, say, Amazon or an Apple or Google, right? And if you look at UK, you have Sky that's come out with their own hardware. So you have a set-top box and a television as well as internet in your home, all in just one big screen. And that's something that could be a playbook for a lot of people in the future. And I was thinking about this and I'm thinking, in the US, people have these cars that they lease. And you may be a BMW fan, or you only subscribe to what BMW cars or German cars. So you go to a dealer and then you have a 4-year lease and then you upgrade to the next that comes out. So I feel like even broadcast, we're never not going to have television in our house, right? If that's the hypothesis, we're never not going to have television in our house. But this TV is going to be a one-stop shop like our car is. So I will start to turn the hardware over ever so often, right? So maybe Tata Sky needs to come up with a television. Hulu already has a box, I think.
Roku does.
Roku has a box.
Yeah.
Somebody has a television out and everybody's like, why is there a TV out?
Roku, I think.
Roku has a TV out.
Saying, what do you do?
Everybody will have a TV out. They will have a screen out that will give everybody a run for their money. And I mean, no guesses for it being a duopoly on the OS, because it will be one on the Samsung OS, one on Google. Yeah. Because Apple is always going to be a closed environment. And you'll have all the Apple guys having this amazing Apple television in their homes that is like white and glorious, and it's all
You pay twice the amount because it's white in color.
correct. Because it's white in color. Yeah. See? We're coming back to subliminally making sure people actually pay more for it. Yeah. But this kind of thinking, I feel it's gonna take over. OEMs are gonna definitely be ahead. Your Samsungs, Vizio, all your LG, anybody who's creating any kind of hardware definitely is way up front in the race. Amazon, Google, Apple, etc. also have dabbled in some kind of hardware or the other. So it's not very difficult for them to go buy an OEM or buy a television and create that. Create a product. And from a consumer perspective, I don't know, I'm down for this. I don't mind flipping my television over once every 4 years to make sure I'm getting better hardware, faster internet, more content, etc. And everything is managed within just that one interface. And maybe
and I mean, given the speed at which they're innovating.
Yeah.
Jitin was telling us this the other day. You buy a TV, buy something with new technology.
Correct.
It's going to change. It's going to keep changing, right? But if there's a lease concept, if there's something that is a paradigm shift, I'm not. Because I also realized as a consumer, I can't watch content on my phone.
We do it with our phones now. How often do we upgrade our phones?
Which in 2005, 6?
We never did. We used it and used it and used it and used it. So even the way we think of hardware, think of technology is changing, and that we know that box of cable at home has to be chucked in your electronic waste because there is nothing else coming. There is no other.
Hey.
Do you still have it?
Of course. I know so does Sujit.
Yeah. But nothing is coming. It's going to be like old, decrepit tech that's going to become rubbery and, gross.
I still have an iPhone 2.
What are you saying? I shouldn't be talking because I'm still using my 10-year-old Surface.
We take that offline.
It is amazing. It's a little slow. It gets a little spooked when I start.
It can't stand on its own.
No, it can't.
Lean it up
it's
against
like, oh my
something.
God, you're draining me of battery because, you're running a video call.
Yeah,
But
it's just excited.
It's just
to be
totally
used.
excited. But it's so beautiful still. I still love it. I love that Surface. I don't think I'll ever give it
You
up.
and KK.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, so the whole concept of moving to a platform, becoming an ecosystem, right? Because everybody's moving into an ecosystem game. And we spoke about this in some podcasts in the past about everybody owning everybody else and creating an ecosystem of their own so that they can be vertically integrated is going to become a reality. And I was reading Brian Morrissey's Rebooting, where he talks about ecosystems. And in this, he speaks about how, he defines ecosystems as complex, dynamic, and easily thrown out of balance, right? And he says, because of the way the media industry is, because of the way ad tech is, it's actually true in every sense. It's complex, it's highly dynamic, and we're constantly getting thrown out of balance if you are in the media ecosystem. And funnily enough, the ones who are bearing the brunt of all of this are our dear publishers. So unless publishers today take control of how they get treated, it is going to be very, very tough for them not to be just tossed around in the sea. And you see this in, the formation of GIC, which is the General Committee in the US. You see this with people consolidating with each other. You see this with how they are where publishers are trying to get their first-party data strategy up and second-party data strategy up. right? So creating a media ecosystem within yourself is something that everybody everybody needs to look at, because it's almost like the butterfly effect, right? Somebody's decision down the road can make an entire industry collapse. It's a
I like the way like Brian has described it. You said complex, dynamic, and can be easily thrown out of balance. Right? It reminds me of the music industry. I'm sure there was a time when everyone was figuring out how to make LPs better, without realizing that the whole ecosystem would get thrown out of balance because CDs came about, and then that went away because MP3s came about. Something from a technology perspective can throw an entire ecosystem out of balance, and then everybody has to either keep up, but there will be people who resist. For some reason, this whole narrative is making me think of that evolution. I don't think back then anyone would have imagined that you will one day have a bunch of services that stream.
Yeah.
You don't need a physical device. Imagine if that applied to our TV analogy.
Yeah. So this whole concept of this trilogy between audience, advertisers, platform, or Google's holy trinity that they keep talking about, which is users, advertisers, and publishers, right, is constantly going to be in this vortex. And if you're doing something in the service of one of these, the other two suffer. And that's the conundrum, and which is why this industry has to start collaborating. You have to start looking at it holistically instead of each man or woman or person to their own, which is something that I think everybody's slowly realizing. And you can see collaborations happening between competitors, collaborations happening between people and companies you never thought would happen in the past, in an effort to make sure that the industry is moving ahead, right?
For their own gain as well as the industry.
Yeah, for both their gain as well as the industries, because we need competition. We cannot have a duopoly. We need competition. We need to have different things that happen, and we need customer choice. We need consumer choice. And right now, most industries are looking like they're moving towards a duopoly, right? There are two large players that are there, and everybody else is kind of like sub 30% of the market. Speaking of market, you came in the other day and said, did you read the Instacart CEO's note?
Instacart, the long-awaited IPO happened this week. And it was fun to read it because it's very close to our heart as a company. Ben Thompson from Stratechery wrote about the fact that Instacart is actually two companies. It's a grocery delivery company, which is not a tech company. So he tries to define a tech company, and he has these 5 criteria, right? They should create an ecosystem, have zero marginal costs, improve over time, have infinite leverage, and enable zero transaction costs. And so he says, are they a tech company? No. He says, fortunately, there's another company within them, which is Instacart Ads. And he breaks down the fact that they are front and center a tech company. And in the world of retail, which is always low or negative on margins, especially in grocery delivery, you are marrying it with a business that is very high on margins. And he said, how is Instacart Ads a tech company? Have they created an ecosystem? Yes, it's a multi-sided marketplace between shoppers and advertisers. They have zero marginal costs on advertising. Their capabilities will improve over time because they are going to have more and more data to play with. And they will hit critical mass milestones. Do they have infinite leverage? Yes, you can bring on board as many advertisers as you want. And can they enable zero transaction costs? Yes, they can massively increase profitability. And so I think it's cool because he touched upon something that's very dear to us, which is the intersection of e-commerce or retail and advertising. And he breaks it down in a manner that I thought was pretty cool. He said, why ads? Why do ads make sense, so much sense in the retail space? You are dealing with a high intent, very high intent audience, that they are here not to browse. They are here to buy something. They're here to shop. 2, a lot of their experience is based on search, which means you don't have to guess why they're here. The signals will be given to you in as crisp a manner as possible, and you can use that to measure and create context and therefore deliver very relevant ads. And 3, the primary offering in a retail space is brands looking to differentiate themselves, which is the basic premise of advertising. So I thought it's a very beautiful way. In fact, there's a little tidbit in there which I didn't know. Pepsi, in a private placement, has bought $175 million worth of Instacart stock after having spent a lot of money on ads.
Yep.
on the Instacart platform. Maybe they're looking to get some of it back. But I thought it was a fun IPO for us to read. And interestingly, despite all of this, in the entire S1, they've used the word advertising only once.
A few numbers on it. Instacart's now market cap after their IPO is 9.3 billion. They had a 660 million IPO. It is the fourth largest, and they aim to make money off of consumer data. They launched Instacart ads in 2017. And last year over this year, they have gone up to about 740 million in terms of advertising revenue, 29% up from the previous year. And interestingly, also, it's not just from sponsored posts. Now, when we talk about retail media, retail advertising, etc., this whole product list ads or PLAs come into play, right? Where sellers able to put up their produce and a product and then have some kind of imagery around it and discounting, and people can buy it from there. And that's basically the way they actually advertise. But what Instacart ads is doing is that they are allowing people to shop directly from videos and from whatever they're displaying. So they are innovating in a big way in terms of engaging with audiences and then making them shop right then and there. And that's something that Instagram had started as well, but more from a influencer perspective. You could buy and you could see whatever has been tagged in a video, right? The other thing that has happened also ever since they got their new CEO is that they have a partnership with Shopify. So Shopify sellers, the long tail Shopify sellers, can use the audience network of Instacart and target Instacart audiences to have them buy whatever you want to. Just off the pandemic, after the hoo-ha of spending and everybody went spending, in great amounts for advertising, when we came off that entire blip, marketers started to spend only bottom of the funnel. And like you said, where high intent audiences are, which is e-commerce platforms. And with search, when you're actually intentfully searching and you're trying to find out, where is this product? I want to buy an orange drink. I want to buy a sunscreen, etc. Microsoft has now come up with conversational advertising, which is marrying what AI can do, marrying what you would go to a mom and pop shop and say, hey, give me a good XYZ product, right? Give me a good sunscreen. Or what do you recommend I would need for this kind of skin? Or I have a headache. Do you have anything, a tablet for me in a pharmacy? You always have a conversation in a counter first mom and pop shop, which we've all grown up on as well. And search being the way to actually query. So search advertising is the best form of advertising. And you supercharge it with AI, like what Microsoft is doing today, then you're in business. Yeah. So all of this, like we keep talking, this is like a huge industry. This is not capped by anything. You can keep creating new and better frontiers. So e-commerce, retail advertising moving towards being far more media friendly, conversational and engaging, where people are coming here with their wallets open saying that I'm here to buy something. I'm here to buy clothes, I'm here to buy cosmetics, I'm here to buy produce, whatever, is where most of the advertising will go in terms of dollars.
Closer to the bottom of the funnel.
Closer to the bottom of the funnel. And therefore the top of the funnel really needs to up their game in how they're going to be encapsulating brand experience, which comes back to how it was 20 years ago.
Yeah. I was reading this thing from Group M the other day where they said top of the funnel advertising is still going to have its place to basically keep the funnel well oiled.
Yes.
So that when you get to the bottom of the funnel, it can prime.
Yep.
Everyone's mind.
At the bottom of the funnel, you're looking at average customer, reviews, pricing, discounting, your mood at that point in time, what else is on sale, etc. Because you're here to buy. I'm not telling you that you need this. And I did not know that I needed it. So I think there's a lot that's coming up in retail advertising and retail media. And I'm excited about what Instacart ads can do for retail media and what our people in India are going to do, like Myntra and Flipkart and all of the rest of our guys who are there are really primed to...
We're also heading towards IPOs.
Yeah, are really primed to do a whole bunch of this stuff. So And we are not shy in spending on e-commerce in India. And apparently we are the most impatient lot because we have like same day delivery. My friend in Singapore said she has to wait almost for 2 weeks for something that she ordered. I was like, what? I'd forget that I'd already ordered it because sometimes I order stuff and if it doesn't come within 72 hours and when it comes maybe a week later, I'm like, oh, I ordered this. I didn't know that I had ordered it. But yeah, so the other thing in the news is Senior Murdoch has stepped down at the ripe old age of 92 and everybody in the room said, oh, finally.
Did he just get married?
Did he? Oh, yeah, he did. Maybe that's why. He needs to focus on his marriage and his relationship, like every other Gen Zer that we have in our office. Yeah, when I was listening to a podcast by Matthew Belloni on The Town, and he and Michael Wolff, who's an author who wrote a book called The Fall, The End of Fox News and the Murdoch Dynasty Family, were talking about the fact that Rupert Murdoch had stepped down and the quirks of the Murdoch family and the Murdoch empire. I think it's a good listen. It's a decent banter between two people. But I'm definitely going to read this book. It's going to come close on the heels of after I read that book.
Sumner read it.
On Sumner, Redstone, called The King of Content.
King of Content, yeah.
So and it has serious Succession vibes. So at least there's something to hold on to. I may go back and watch a season or two. Who knows? Who knows? Right? The last thing that I have to share is Yahoo advertising is back in the news. They have resurrected themselves from the dead.
They're always
I thought they had just
in
died.
The mix.
Yeah. Apparently, Yahoo Backstage, through Yahoo's DSP, has the largest representation of CTV publishers. I mean, talk about relevant. They have 40 CTV publishers and they have recently tied up with Freewheel, Magnite and Publica to be able to funnel premium
They just won't
supply.
go away.
They won't go away. I love it. And they have used all the great words. They have used sentences like direct path to curated premium publisher inventory and our favorite SPO, right? So I think this is a good comeback by Yahoo, and all the best to Yahoo Backstage and the Yahoo DSP team and everybody else, because God knows CTV is having a moment right now. And the projected spends this year for CTV are in the range of about 25 billion. So, well, I mean, this is what we mean by competition has to come back. There has to be competition and publishers need to be represented. So I'm hoping the publishers are also, they have enough technology on their side to understand how to manage, mitigate, as well as manipulate the kind of demand that's coming in to their premium inventory that they're putting up on DSPs. I still believe deeply in direct sales. I think it'll come back.
Very much.
I don't think it's gone away anywhere, but I think this is good in terms of competition, right? So yeah.
If Rob Beeler is at ATS Singapore, I'm going to go look him up, because at ATS London, he held an entire 45-minute talk that said direct sales is coming back.
I don't think it went anywhere. It kind of became quiet for a while because there was so much noise from programmatic till people realized that you just take what you get and there's no arguing about it. And you've got to share, every pennies on the dollar with everybody else. But this whole concept of premium advertising is becoming a thing. It's not becoming a thing. It's just trying to rightfully occupy its space. And I think your New York Times example was on the money as to that can be done. It's not something that is far behind. Also, New York Times created the cut as well. And they also have affiliated marketing where they actually are leading people to convert. So it's not far away that an e-commerce company will also have a publishing arm, right? Or a CTV company will also have an e-commerce arm, or and so on and so forth. So it's all going to become an ecosystem. You gotta love it. So that's basically what we had today on the news, as well as what's happening in the world of media and advertising platforms and technology. If you want to talk to us, if you want to come on to the podcast and talk about what you have in terms of tech or where you work, give us a buzz. Write to us on our LinkedIn handle. DM us on LinkedIn.
We're everywhere.
We're everywhere, wherever you
Write
are.
to me on Google Plus. I will promise you I will respond.
Yeah. Good luck finding Google Plus. But it was fun recapping everything. It's been a while since I've been back on this podcast. And good luck to everybody. You guys are traveling.
We are at ATS Singapore a week from Monday. Next Friday's podcast, we will focus on ATS and talk about everything that we're looking forward to. And then the week after that, we'll do a recap. So if anyone of our listeners is in Singapore the week after next, please hit us up and we'll be happy to meet on the sidelines of ATS. I'm very excited to visit ATS. I've always loved their content. I've always loved watching the panel discussions that they put up on YouTube. They do a very good job of putting all their content up on YouTube for folks like us to watch. And for the first time, we'll be visiting them. And hopefully next we go to ATS London.
Yeah, but ATS Singapore, you got to have some chicken rice for me.
Of course.
Anyway, cheers to that. And we'll see you next week. Bye, everybody. Oh, also, before we finish, thank you to Leena, Gautam, and Santosh.
Thank you as always.
Bye.